Okay, we're good to go.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. At this time, I will be calling the special meeting of December 11th, 2021 to order. Before we get started, I just wanted to let everyone know there have been a few positive cases of COVID here at City Hall. So we are taking precautions. Today, I am the only person in the chambers with our info system manager, Paul Da Silva. So today was noticed as a public hearing. The doors are still open, but I would strongly advise the public to take precautions and stay home and participate from home if possible. We will be closing City Hall for a few days to make sure it's disinfected throughout, and probably do the next meeting or two virtually to make sure everyone stays safe as the staff is tested for COVID. This time, Vice Mayor Resendez, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Roll call.
Sorry about that. Councilmember Perez?
Present.
Councilmember Burns?
Here.
Vice Mayor Resendez?
Present.
Mayor Velasquez?
Here.
City Manager Miller?
Here.
City Attorney Epperson?
Here.
I don't see Chief of Police Reynoso? Thank you. The posting for the agenda for the City of Hollister City Council special meeting of December 11th, 2021 was posted on the bulletin board on December 1st, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. per Government Code Section 54956.
Thank you very much. We will now move to item A1, public hearing.
Thank you. Redistricting occurs every 10 years after the U.S. Census. Federal, state, and local laws require the city to revise council districts after each census. Typically, census data is released by April 1st of the year following the census and was delayed due to COVID-19. California state law AB 849 requires that the governing body of each city adopt new district boundaries after each federal decennial census. California state law AB 1276 requires that general law cities finish redistricting and adopt a new district map by ordinance no later than April 17th, 2022, which will then be implemented by the County Register of Voters in time for the 2022 council elections. So staff is recommending that the City Council hold the second public hearing, receive the presentation, receive public comment, and review any submitted maps. And with that, I can turn it Shelley, Jeannie, or Robin, or maybe all of them.
Good morning. This is Jean. It's good to see you in Hollister. I was there 10 years ago and before that, and perhaps after that, to help you with your districting and redistricting. And Shelley is here too, and you've seen her before. And Robin Merrill, our GIS expert, is here as well. So you're seeing all three of our team members, the key people in our company. I'm going to I can talk you through some things you've heard before and some new things as well. So we're going to review why Hollister needs to change the boundaries between city council districts. Not a whole lot, but to some extent. We have two plans, 1 and 2, that we will present to you this morning. And it's my understanding that there have not been any plans submitted by the public yet. So I think those are the only two plans we'll discuss. Then, of course, you city council members will be able to ask questions and discuss. Robin Merrill is prepared to demonstrate more the online redistricting tool to show you what happens if, for example, you change the boundary between districts 1 and 2 a little bit, because that will help you see the hands-on demo of how more works, and something that will be practical because there is an option for Plan 1. Here are the current council districts adopted in 2012. And you are familiar with your city and probably your council district boundaries. And these will balance the populations back in 2012. The populations need to be balanced. That is, they need to be equal or almost equal in population using the 2020 census numbers. Here's a zoomed in southern part of the city with more of the streets labeled. Now, the number one priority of a redistricting effort is to balance the populations, make the populations fairly equal of the council districts. A little bit of leeway is permitted, and this is called deviation. I'll get to that in a moment. The ideal city council district population is a quarter of the census counts that were taken last year. 1/4 because you have 4 council districts. The city's total population, according to the 2020 census, is 41,934, and a quarter of this, the ideal number of people in each council district, is 10,484. Now, there is some leeway permitted, as I said already. The planned deviation is the measure of leeway, and the deviation is the difference between the least and most populous council districts divided by the 10,484, the ideal, not trustee, but council size. I'm sorry, that's a typo, by the ideal city council district population. 10% deviation is permitted, so there can be as many as 1,048 people difference between the most and the least populous city council districts. This table, which I think you've seen before, shows the deviations for the current, and the map on the right is your current districts. This table has, for each council district, there's a row, and the 2020 population counts are showing here. And 1/4 of this total, 41,934, is, as I just said, 10,484. So the council districts need to be fairly close to this number with that leeway that I just mentioned of 1,048 people on the bottom line of this slide. Now, the deviation column, each council district's 2020 population and the ideal. So, for example, the ideal is 10,484. District 1's total population as of last year was higher than this, 562 people more. And you can see the deviation column, 562. And the first 2 districts, 1 and 2, both are larger than the ideal council district size. And districts 3 and 4 are relatively underpopulated, especially district 4. So we have a range between positive 6.5% and negative 10%. And the total range, regardless of whether it's plus or minus, is 16.5%. And that's 1,725 people. So the table shows that we need to move some people out of 1 and 2 into 4, especially 4. There was uneven population and housing growth in the city during the last decade, and because the 2012 redistricting with the lines you have now was based on 2020 population. And now we're looking at those districts using the new population from 2020. So more people were added to 1 and 2, and fewer people were added to 3 and 4 over the last decade. So 1 and 2 is where there was the most housing and population growth, and 3, but especially 4 had less, relatively less. This doesn't mean that District 4 lost population. It means that it just didn't grow as fast as the other council districts. So here we have Plan 1. Instead of this plan's deviation is 7.5%, which is acceptable. The presumptive maximum deviation is 10%. So we want the plan deviation to be 10% or less. And so this plan is well below that 10% maximum. And in Plan 1, District 4's boundary is Memorial Drive, and that's the boundary between Council Districts 3 and 4. And District 1 uses Hillcrest and South Street southern boundary. And I want to call your attention to this part of the boundary between 1 and 2. And Robin will demonstrate later what happens if we move this boundary over to follow Line Street, the whole way, instead of West Side. Zoomed in, again, here's the area that we could move from West Side to Line Street. So this particular part of the city could. And Robin, again, will show you how this works. And here are the numbers, the detailed numbers for Plan 1. And here, highlighted in yellow, is that 7.5% total deviation. And we just looked at this part of the slide when I started talking about what deviations are. So you can see that District 4 is still more populous than the others, but its deviation instead of 10% is 5.4%. And District 1 population was augmented, and District 2's also. So those deviations are at 2.2%. So the 2.2% and not negative 2.2% and positive 5.4% is the 7.5%. Now here's Plan 2 with a lower deviation. And that was an objective of Plan 2 to see how the lower deviation could be achieved. And this difference in deviation would matter if you know that there's going to be even more housing growth in District 4, currently being built and populated, or very soon definitely going to be built and populated, be altered too, so that Council District 4 has a negative deviation instead of a positive one. And in any event, we've gone a little bit in that direction, but District 4's deviation is still positive. And in this plan, West Street divides Districts 2 and 3, and West Side Boulevard divides Districts 1 and 2. And here's a more detailed version of that map. So we see the boundary between 1 and 2 is West Side, not Line Street, and South Street, Hillcrest Road. This boundary with 3 is on West Street, and the boundary between 2 and 4 is here along Clearview Drive and Sunny Slope Road, and then Airline Highway. Here are the specific numbers for Plan 2. And I didn't point out to you what these parts of the table mean, and I'd be happy to do that. But what we have in general is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different measures that are used to assess the groups protected under the Federal Voting Rights Act and the and are being honored. The Federal Voting Rights Act says that the concentration for the protected groups protected by the Voting Rights Act should give Latinos an opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. And in Plan 2, the population shares for districts 1, 2, and 3, and 4 all have a Latino majority. When you look at the voting age, you can see that's still true. They're still well over 50%. And then at the bottom left, you see the citizens of voting age. These are people who are eligible to vote. We still have 3 council districts, not 4, with a Latino majority. Over on the right, we have the registered voter shares. And if you look at actual registered voters as of last November, you see that only council districts 1 and 2 have Latino majorities. And then we have actual voters, and Latinos are still so there's a big difference between population shares of the total population and the shares that Latinos and others have of the actual voters. And this may or may not seem important to you because there's a lot of ways of using these data. So I will now stop sharing. I can share again anytime.
Actually, Jean, if
Yes.
I could make a few comments if you could go back to Plan 1 and share.
Yes. I'll show this slide. Maybe this is the
Yes,
one you want to
that's,
see.
yeah. So the last public hearing, we talked about housing growth. And it was and I'm not exactly sure where the housing growth was going to go. I thought it was above Hillcrest in District 1, but it would be good to know whether it's going to be in District 4. I thought it was not going to be in District 4, but so that we should get clarity. But District 4 has a large population, relatively speaking, that 5.4%. So if housing growth is not going in District 4, in the last 10 years, it was continues, then that would be a reason to keep District 4 relatively large at 5.4% deviation. But if you expect housing growth to go into District 4, then perhaps Plan 2 would be your better option, where the deviation, it's close to even, it's close to the ideal district size.
Thank you.
The disadvantage of Plan 2 is that the Clearview Drive is not perhaps as major a street. You know, we try and have major streets as delineations, and Memorial Drive was, a nice street divider line, which is what was used in Plan 1.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
The Plan 2, District 4 is going to see a lot of growth very soon here. I think 400 or 500 homes are going to be built in that area. Actually more, about 700-800 homes. So the Plan 2 lays out really well. Your comment about Clearview was the first thing I caught. I think Clearview works, but I think some of those side streets that come along with it should be added to it, like Nez Perce, and there's a few others that would make more sense to that district. And I think at that point that would work out really well for the council districts also. I think one of our council members lives very close in that area, but that would make more sense as far as the dividing line, because if you're representing that district, to get to those side streets, you have to use Clearview to get to them. And that would work as long as those other streets were added that run along Clearview. As I said, District 4 will be seeing at least 700 plus homes being built in the next 5 years. So I think that would make, Plan 2 would make a lot of sense. And I think the dividing line of West Street for the other ones actually works pretty well, and I always wondered why that wasn't done before, but I think that lays out pretty well. That would be my comments.
It was that way because we had to have a deviation below 10%
Right.
in 2012. So that's why the current boundaries are the way they are.
I would say it lays out really well. I see a hand up by Vice Mayor Resendez. And I see Mr. Burns next. Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, a couple of questions. And mainly it's about future development. I'm wondering if you've been working with our planning department for them to let you know what the projections are, what planning is coming, what developments are coming.
We haven't done that. And the reason is that even if something is planned and approved, it's still really difficult to anticipate when the housing will be built and occupied because people don't live there yet. We don't know how many there will be. And there isn't a whole lot of leeway with the 10% maximum deviation to take into account this future housing growth. So Shelley, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it would be good to, in general, know which trust are going to have, where you expect growth. It would be good to know that in general. Getting very specific, as Jean said, is a little, things don't always turn out like you expect and when you expect them. But if you know that you want certain council districts to be smaller, like Council District 4, then we can do that. So that is, it would be good for us to connect with the planning department to see if there's an obvious disparity around the city.
So I know that people might not be residing there, but we do have construction going on with frames up, houses being built in developments, and there's an extreme housing shortage. More than likely, there are going to be people living in there. And if we're not going to do this within 10 years, I just think it's a good idea. On District 1, to, what would that be? It would be to the west of District 1. It's mostly industrial. I don't foresee too much development going on. And then the east of District 3, if you go down to the bottom of the yellow, it starts getting into the county to the left a little bit. So I don't anticipate too much development other than infill, but District 2 and District 4 are, well, obviously District 2 is the most developed, right? We knew that. I don't know how much more development's planned for there in the near future right now. I would say not very much, but District 4 does have a lot of houses that have got frames up, and they will be probably the most impacted from this. So I'm hoping we can work with the planning department so that we could establish that. My other question is, why is there only 2 maps for us to choose from? And how, maybe I missed that during the last meeting.
This is the start of the process. So these are 2 maps we came up with. We're trying to use really major dividing lines and roads wherever we could. And usually this is an iterative process. You also have an online mapping tool. So anybody, including yourselves, can go online and draw maps if you like. So you can have more than this to choose from. This is just the start.
Yeah. It's a start, and the comments you've just made are enormously helpful to guide us in adjusting boundaries. Very helpful. And as Shelley said, we will check with the planning department as well. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm excited. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. And can you bring up the Plan 2 also? I think that would probably be, I think we're looking at Plan 1 right now.
This is 2.
Okay, perfect. So we can get a better view of that. Thank you. Mr. Burns, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo what the previous 2 council members have brought forward, but I want to understand better the term deviation, because as I interpret it, the ideal goal would be to have a 0 number across the board, to be neutral. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. It's the only thing is, if you know there's housing growth coming, we could side on giving that council district or districts slightly less.
Now,
absent that, we should ideally everybody would have the same population size.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at this correctly. And I'm also wondering if there'd be a way, and maybe this is just trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be, but clearly we know that there's development happening, and certainly in District 4, there's a significant amount that's going to occur, or is it actually in process at one level or another on Fairview. And I'm also wondering if there's a benefit to maybe anticipating future annexations, because we see a lot of requests. And I can't speak for the council, but my sense is on the year I've been on council that the council's preference is to annex versus make other alternative allocations for water or sewer or those type of things. And I'm wondering if we could look at that as well. And then my final question or comment would be, I'm a little concerned now. We're about, as I understand it, about halfway through this process, with today's meeting being the second meeting. And I'm a little concerned that we've not received any maps from other people. And maybe you can assure me that we'll see more of that, or is this the norm? And so with that, that'll conclude my questions and comments. Thank you. And I, again, also appreciate very much the work you're doing on our behalfs.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Burns. We will talk to the planning department about the future housing growth, and we need to know where the annexations might occur. So who would be the best people to discuss this with, planning or somebody else in your city government?
Planning department would be most helpful.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Perez, do you have any questions, sir?
Well, there's just one other question.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Burns had about why others haven't submitted maps. And actually there was a concern last time about why there weren't more people in the audience. But you know, sometimes the council members are the most involved people. So I would say if you all want to try your hand at some maps, that's a possibility. You know, it just depends if sometimes there are activists, political activists that are very involved, and then they start drawing maps. But if you don't have that in your city, then that may not arise. So we'll just.
It also depends on how visible your planning, your process is, redistricting process, and it will help to have more information on your redistricting website. And it would be really good if you would put out the word that this is happening, and everybody is encouraged to participate in your local media, newspapers, radio and TV stations, and anything else you think people would look at so they could learn about the redistricting tool, the online redistricting tool. That helps engage people. And in fact, you're supposed to be doing that, as I'm sure you know.
Thank you. Mr. Perez.
We have advertised in the newspaper. I'm hoping to, if council's okay with it, I could advertise again. We're posting it on our website, especially the week before our meetings. And I mean, posting it on our social media, and it's on our website, so.
That sounds like a great idea. Yeah, my only comments are, I'd like to keep the numbers a little bit more even as far as Plan 2. What I like about Plan 1 is cleaner lines. It gives a specific, I don't know, the cleaner lines are better for me. They just like future planning developments that could be coming through. I think it's important, but I don't think it's, I don't think we should be putting a lot of eggs in that basket for a lot of the future planning developments that are going to be developed that are too far.
Well,
that are going to be developed soon.
I think perhaps Robin will show you using more how that boundary could be adjusted. And when you're we're finished with your members of the public, if they have questions, we can go to that and just tinker with both plans, 1 and 2, or just one of them, according to your preferences.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Looking at this layout now with the Plan 2 in a little larger format, as I said, I think the area around Clearview, it's important to include those streets, but I would take District 3, Memorial Drive, and extend that south all the way to Airline Highway, and that would give District 3 a little more population. That would help in that area.
How many people live in this area? So
I'm sorry?
we need to see how many people live in this area.
Right, what are the numbers right now with 3? 3 is the lowest, is that what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So Robin can look at that and we'll see if taking that area between Memorial Drive and Airline Highway would work, because that would make 4 smaller and 3 more.
Yeah. As we mentioned, right now, District 4 is where construction is actually happening right now. And as I said, there will be about 700 new homes built in the next 5 years in that district. So that should work out for the other ones. I do really think the other ones are laid out pretty well for this at this point, and that would be my final comments. If we have no other questions or comments from council, we will go to public hearing this time. So at this time, we will open for public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
I'm showing no speakers on Zoom, and there's no one here in chambers.
Thank you. This time,
Paul, can we give that just a minute or two to see if anybody?
sure.
We can, but there's completely 0 attendees.
Attendance. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
This time, we're going to go ahead and close public hearing, and we'll go back to the presenters.
I think at this time it would be good to go to the online demonstration. And we can look at some of those changes that you suggested.
All
Would
right, that'd be fun.
be good? Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see
So
how this thing
Robin,
works
take it
live.
away.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
thank you. And I'm going back a little bit, but I really like the idea that you said that we can come up with a plan together. Couldn't we just do that right now and consider that another map?
Yes, absolutely.
Since we're all here, we're having a meeting anyhow, then that could be another map, and that's another plan. I'd really like for the council to consider that if it's possible.
Yeah, let's adjust the lines and see how this all looks.
Okay, so whenever you're ready, Robin can start sharing her screen.
Yes, hi everyone. Happy to be here with you on this beautiful Saturday morning. I will share my screen with you to go over some basic information about how Maptitude online redistricting works and how we can set up an account. First, we'll start with first things first. Can everyone see my Maptitude online redistricting application?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So the first time you click on the link that you have posted on the city's redistricting webpage, this is what will open. If it's your first time logging into the application, you will need to create an account. It's a username and a password. And because I already have done that, I'll go ahead and type that information in. And log in. Here we are. The first time someone logs into the application, this is the window that will pop up. The application includes 2 maps already in the application. The first one here on the top is the current plan. Those are your current council districts. And that is the map that we strongly encourage you to start with, only because it gives you a starting point. But if anyone wants to start with a blank slate, there is a base map here down below that they can click on and start from scratch to create their own plan. Now, normally you would click on one of these 2 and hit create. So I'm on the current plan. I click on create, and the application automatically makes a copy of it so you don't lose this current plan. And then you would just type in whatever you want to call it. My plan one, it doesn't really matter what you call it. And you click on OK, and it will open up to the current plan. Lots of bells and whistles in this application, and Caliper has done a really good job of making them the tools that you need to modify districts hidden so that you have a lot of visibility in looking at your map. So it's just a matter of being able to find the tools that you need to make the changes that you'd like to make. I'd like to point out that it's very important to know that up here in this Help tab, if you click on that, Maptitude, let me see if I can get rid of this one. There we go. Maptitude has cleverly added a quick start guide, and your IT department has also included a link to this quick start guide on your redistricting web page. So if someone is starting from the very first time, there's a member of the public wants to get started and they want to know how do I do this from the first step, they can open up this quick start guide. They can also save the quick start guide as a PDF, or they can print it out from their home printer if they'd like. So it goes through exactly how to create an account like we just went through at where you create a username and a password. And then it just starts right in with how to create a new plan, and it goes through all of the steps to do that. And down here on these color-coded numbers gives you what the map actually looks like. And it will tell you where to find all of the tools that you need and what each tool does. And I'm gonna close this now. Most of the tools on the application work like a toggle. So you click it once to open it and click it again to close it. So like I said, the four main toolboxes are found in the four corners of the screen. We have our display box, which gives the layers that are in the map. Box. And this is the tool that shows you each of your 4 city council districts and the population statistics. You can see we have total population, percent deviation, and then if you cursor over here, and it's not letting me do this right now, I think it's trying to catch up. We have total pop by race ethnic group, and then we have some 18 plus pop and CVAP data. So I'll go ahead and close that window and come over here to this top right one is already open. This is the Redistricting Toolbox. This is the box that you would need to have open in order to make changes to your plan. And what's really nice to go with it is your Changes toolbox. I'm waiting for it to catch up. And this is a really nice box. Well, I think it'll open up for us here in a minute when we start changing district boundaries. Up here in the top left, we have 5 major little tools that help you move around. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can pan. Boy, it's really, really slow. There's an information tool here where you either, depending on what layer you're looking at, you can click on a census block if you want to see how many people are there. But another feature of this, it's not letting me do anything.
Well, while we're waiting, I wanted to say that you might get more members of the public involved if you had a computer that people could come in and use to do this, because not everybody has a fast computer, and these long waits like we're having now could be a function of how many windows are open, but it could just be that it's not a very fast computer. A library just down the street from you would be a place to have a computer where people can go to design plans, and maybe there's somewhere else in the city that this would be a good idea. They could just access is dedicated for that purpose. So if there's a computer in the library, it should have a sign saying this this computer is reserved for redistricting the city council. I'm sorry, Robin.
No, thank you, Jean. Appreciate that information. I think it might be a good idea for me to log out if I can, and then log back in.
And maybe we could go straight to the line drawing, like the changes.
Well, I'll open up Plan 2. We have Plans 1 and 2 in there. And we can share Plans 1 and 2 so that you can start with Plans 1 and 2 if you would like.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea, so that it's there on the when it opens up.
Right.
Yeah, and just so the council knows, our Maptitude sometimes gets really slow when we're on Zoom. So I guess there's so much computer
There's only
that's.
so much bandwidth. I think, Mr. Perez, do you have another question? I see your hand up.
Yes. So what is the requirement by law for, as far as including future growth in our plan today?
There's nothing in the law that says we should include future housing. In fact, you have to go, the deviation has to be based on the census data.
Yes.
So basically, from my understanding, we're supposed to be going by our present numbers.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And it's just that you have a little leeway if you to account for future growth. So for example, as we were saying, council, if you think most of the growth or way more growth is going to happen in Council District 4, then you could make that a little smaller.
Less populous, but there isn't much wiggle room, and especially in a city with a relatively small population like yours, it's important to try to, when you try to have leeway, you probably can't account for very much of the future housing growth. So
yeah, perfectly. And you guys are doing a lot of work, and I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it.
I also wanted to comment while we're waiting for Robin. Robin, go ahead and share your screen and everything like that when you're ready. But that there's a trade-off between the deviation being low and using major streets and good boundaries, because not always, but often the case is if we're going to go to a major street, it's going to it means we have to give up on the deviation. So, and hopefully, if this works with Plan 2, you'll see what happens when we don't use Clearview.
And I'm ready, Shelley. Can everyone see the Maptitude?
Yes.
Okay, great. So after your first time logging in, every subsequent time, you will see all of the plans that you have created in your account. So we'll just click on Plan 2 and we'll open it. And the application automatically saves your work. So you can work on something. If you need to close it, walk away, come back to it, it'll bring you right back where you left. So we have here Plan 2, and I believe it was this area of the 3-4 boundary that we wanted to make some changes to.
Just right,
So we wanted to move some territory from 3 into 4 to bring this Clearview boundary to the west. Is that correct?
Yeah, right along the, to the right more.
Over
there you
here?
Go, right there. Yeah, exactly right. That street.
if you could zoom in more, it would help, Robin.
They're all connected to Clearview, so Nez Perce there.
Yeah.
So you're going to see the problems we have, because some of these census blocks are not exactly what you would like them to be.
And I don't know if everybody can read the census block labels. In the middle of each census block, there's a number that for me is pretty small because I have a small screen. And you can see how many people are in a block. Robin, why don't you point out one of these? And
This one is a population of 87, Jean.
And then up to the north and west, yes, in that area, there's a block with, what is that number?
673. And so this is what Shelley was talking about, this block. After I'm able to click on it, we can show you the awkward boundary block. So I don't know if it's my internet connection. I'm in a different spot here this morning than I normally am in my office. So it's just waiting to catch up. But I can point out that this redistricting tool here up in the top right, this is where you click on when you're ready to move census blocks from one district to another. It's going to ask you what your source is. So that's the territory, the census blocks that you want to move from. And then your target is the district that you want. These little drop downs will ask you 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it's supposed to give me this drop down, and this doesn't want to do it.
Mr. Mayor,
Hey, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, Councilmember Burns has had a hand up for a while.
I can't see. I'm sorry, I can't see his hand.
I thought so. That's why I thought I'd point it out. Sorry, excuse me.
So, Mr. Burns, go ahead while they're trying to do that.
Thank you, Mayor. For the presenters, I don't remember the specific term you've used this morning, but you talked about the value or the benefit of a clean line or clear street or simple using major roads or thoroughfares or streets. And I understand, I think from a council member perspective, I get that for at least a couple of reasons, but I'm really struggling with wondering why that is, and if it's critical to the residents of our community or the registered voters of our community, or is it just makes for a cleaner map?
I think it's both.
It's also one of the priorities in criteria in the Fair Maps Act to use identifiable boundaries. It does not take precedence over communities of interest. So if there's a community of interest, that is more important than having a identifiable boundary.
And something that complicates it is that these census blocks sometimes have very odd shapes. And it's you can't get exactly the area you want. We have to use the census blocks as building blocks for districting plans, and the boundaries here are based entirely on census blocks. So we move a block from one place to another, and that very populous block, which again, I can't read the number, 600 and something, is that what it says?
673, Jean.
673, that's what is it, a horseshoe shaped boundary? I can't see where the block boundary is. Yeah,
yes.
It's really doesn't lend itself to adjusting that particular boundary.
Yeah, if you can just go back down to where you see the 87, Nez Perce right there. If you take that one in, see how that connects to those other streets in District 4. So if we just took that for an example, how does that look? And then we can go to the other ones. I understand what you're saying on the other comments you made. And council members, since I cannot see your hands, if you do have questions, please just speak out because we want to make sure we're hearing from all of you.
Thank you, Mayor. Tim Burns, one more question in relation to adjusting the boundaries. I understand that it will show numbers, but will it also, because my understanding is part of the challenge and the need, the benefit and the opportunity is to potentially address and adjust the demographics of the districts to allow for there to be a better, stronger balance and a more fair representation. And so I'm wondering by not only are we going to see the benefit or the shift in the numbers and the percentage from one district to another, in this case from 4 to 3, but would we also see in moving those lines how it shifts the demographics of the voting population?
It does.
That's
Yes.
what, I think that's important. And so thank you. I appreciate that.
So it does that automatically, so we'll be instantly able to see the difference in the numbers?
Yes, those numbers are in the, what's called a data view. It's a table with 4 lines in it, one per council district. And if you go over to the right of total population and the deviation, you can look at all of these measures and see what the consequences are for, say, Latino shares of the total population, the voting age population, the citizen voting age population, the registered and actual voters. You can see all of those things, but it takes a little while to look at it. But it's all there in Maptitude Online Redistricting.
So with that, for the Fair Maps Act, those numbers that in the Fair Map, are we supposed to keep them, we want to keep them balanced as much as possible. So
The Fair Maps Act says the first priority is the federal requirements. The federal requirements are population balance, and then the Voting Rights Act, which is to protect the, in your case, the Latino majorities.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna log in as a user, and I'm just wondering, okay, so once I create an account, how do I open the maps that you've created? I just see open, copy, delete, new plan that you've created.
I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, they're not there. Let me see if I can share that right now.
But you know something, I could share my screen and just use regular Maptitude.
It
Should I
seems like
do
you're
that?
having tech difficulties. Is
Yeah.
that correct, Robin?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
And
so
I did just share, Vice President, I did just share Plan 2, so I'm not sure how fast that works.
But I could share my screen and do regular Maptitude. Why don't I do that and we can,
It's very similar. There aren't as many menus, or it's not intended for
It just
online.
looks a little.
so here's the area that we were talking about. And we also had the area below with airline, highway, and memorial. We can go do that in a minute too. But we want to take this block here, right? And
Yes.
put it into 4. It's currently in 3. So the target is 4. And I'm just gonna do that. And that could be the line. If we wanted to do more than that, I just want to show you how awkward it is. This is the next block. So, and that would be a lot of people that were line.
Correct.
So, yeah, so we could just take that if you want.
Let's try that. See how that looks.
If we did that, that would be the boundary line.
Nice.
And up
And-
above, you can see the deviations.
Yeah, I need to,
Make the map smaller.
yeah, okay.
Question.
Tim Burns,
Go
Mayor.
ahead, Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. So with this adjustment, I really feel personally that it puts me in a quandary. And so because this feels in all directness and honesty and candor, very self-serving for me. And so maybe this is a question for Mr. Epperson, but if it were to come down to an adjustment that simply was, and I get it, because you cannot get to Nez Perce any other way but from Clearview, period. There is no way to get there. But I would be inclined to want to abstain from voting for an adjustment like this simply because I benefit personally, directly, and specifically if I were inclined to want to run for re-election. And that's still 3 years out, but it just feels self-serving to me. I guess I'll leave it at that. So Mr. Epperson, any thoughts or comments, sir?
Councilmember Burns, I haven't seen anything yet that, in my opinion, would create a conflict, and I think that you could vote on it. However, if there's concern over that, you and I could certainly discuss the specifics of it at another time.
Mr. Mayor, if you can.
Yeah, we can hang up a quick second. Let me ask our experts here. Part of when you're drawing lines, as I understood in the past, don't you want to try to keep, if possible, the elected officials in their district, or is that not something that matters whatsoever?
The Fair Maps Act says that cities and counties do not consider incumbency. I would think if all else being equal, it's okay to do it, but plan drawing is not supposed to be very significantly based, if at all, on where the current incumbents live.
Right, but in this case, because of the way to access that street would be through Clearview, it does kind of make sense to have that. And it's really, now it's just a matter of population demographics, correct? That we're trying to make sure it's fair.
I wanted to point out the deviation in the table just above the map.
Yeah, if we can look at that first, that'd be great.
Yeah, can you make the map smaller again, Robin? I mean,
and Mr.
Shelley.
Burns, I understand your concern, and thank you for bringing that up. I thought you were near there. I wasn't sure how close you were.
So the total deviation for this version of Plan 2 is still quite acceptably well below that 10%.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir. Mr. Resendez.
Thank you. Can you please make the map smaller so we can see all of the deviations?
They're actually
you should be able to see all of them now.
Oh, okay, on top. Okay, now I'm just wondering if we had, let's say 700 homes coming into District 4, what is that going to do to the deviations? Like, let's just give me a guess as the map currently is adjusted.
Well, the permitted deviation is just over 1,000 people. So I think you have far more than 1,000 people living in 700 homes.
Well, my question to that is,
Mr. Mayor, I'm not done.
Hang on. You go ahead, Mr. Resendez. Finish your
Thank you.
question.
So then my other suggestion would be, I like the line that the mayor was talking about. I think it's Memorial. I can't see the street names on there. Mm-hmm. Could we scooch from Airline Highway, cut that corner off, and just bring a clean line down Memorial? Can we see what that looks like?
That's the next step we're going to be doing. Mr. Perez, you had a question, sir?
so I guess my concern about when we're thinking about, I mean, I'm trying to balance and weigh this out in my mind, is when we're going to account for those 700 homes, just say 1,000 homes, that how many of them are going to be Hispanic? How many of them are going to be white? How many are going to be voters? That's why that's where my concerns come in about taking into consideration or to account the future of those homes. So it's like, I don't know, can you guys help us out or help me come to terms with that? I don't know if anyone could.
No, and I really think that you shouldn't focus on that too much. Shelley, why don't you take that 124 block out of what's going to move?
Why?
Well, I think it's going to be too much, but go to. You can always put it back. So the total deviation now is still below 10%, so that would work.
So that would,
and that gives 4 a negative deviation of 3.6% minus 3.58%.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Can we now, or can you please walk us through what the demographics look like up on top? I'm honestly a little bit confused by all this, but does it look evenly balanced the way you drew it as to oppose what it was before?
If you have the PowerPoint in front of you, you can see all of these numbers on the detailed tables that we have for Plan 2 and Plan 1. And it looks quite a lot like that table at the top, except all of the all of the variables are off to the right. So if you move the data view slider, Shelley, towards the right, you can show the additional numbers.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just show the map now like this so people can see it. Okay.
I think there's a slider for the data view, but you have to make the map smaller.
So here's the total pop and the deviation. So this plan is actually pretty close, with 4 being the smallest, which I think is what you wanted to have happen. And then here are the measures, and I can let's see, here we go.
This version of the plan gives District 2 a positive deviation, so that this would take housing growth in District 4 to some account into account somewhat, and the lack of population growth, future housing growth in District 2. District 2 has a positive deviation, so this moves in the direction of anticipating future population growth.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So just to be very clear as to what we did, we moved one line over from Clearview to Nez Perce because you cannot access Clearview. I think there's a sound wall there or something. I'm sorry, Nez Perce from the other side.
Yes.
So that makes sense to me. And then what we did at the bottom was to clean up that line and make it memorial. And yes,
Right.
we are taking into account future development. There's frames out there. And we're not breaking any laws. We're not going over what the standard is, so to speak. And everything is still pretty much evenly demographically. And I've got to say, I'm more concerned about the Hispanic Latino population because that is the majority population here. But it looks like, looking at the numbers, everything looks relatively even in that sense as to what it was before. Is that correct, team?
Even in what are you saying?
Well, the percent Hispanic CVAP say.
So a key measure for the Hispanic numbers, here's Hispanic
eligible to vote, people
eligible to vote, people who are
register.
citizens of voting age population. And you want this over 50% if you can.
Yeah,
So
but
you have District 3 as over 50%.
Go over to the right now, so we can see registered and actual voters.
So here are registered voters, Hispanic registered voters here. Is District 3 is 47%. And so just so Districts 1 and 2 are highly Latino. 4 that are on the margin. And that can just be the demographics of your situation.
And actual
Here's the actual voters. So 45% of actual voters in District 3 in this scenario are Latino or have Spanish surnames, I should say. So it's not a perfect measure.
But just like in the current plan, Districts 1 and 2 have a majority of actual voters who are Hispanic.
So this is similar to the current system and the other plans, but there may be like 1 or 2 percentage points different. Before we'd have to look at that specifically. So I don't know if that is something you're concerned about, but it looks like just the Latinos are less dominant in areas 3 and 4.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is my personal opinion from what I've seen historically, like that is relatively what our demographics lay out to be. But in my personal opinion, again, I think it's going to change in the future because we have people coming from other areas that are moving into these newer homes because they can afford to buy them from the Bay Area. Predominantly Hispanic and other minorities are coming here. So I think that it's going to go up, but this is what it has been historically, in my opinion.
That's very common in cities like yours. The Latino population share is growing, just because there's higher fertility for Hispanics and much more awareness of the need to vote, among other things. So you're right. Very likely to move in the direction you suggested. In the city of Salinas, for example, we've seen this happening over the decades.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So as far as this is kind of, well, it's totally related, but so basically right now, how many more meetings before we come up with a vote on which one that we want to go forward with? I mean, are we able to vote now?
No. I mean,
no?
you can vote now, but you have to keep holding, you need at least 4.
So I mean, like Vice Mayor Resendez was saying that he likes this one, so we could actually save this one and
Yes.
be one of our considerations.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's going to be Plan 3. We will make
Plan
it
3.
Plan 3.
Awesome.
And
Thank
if you want to give us any other suggestions about what to try out, we could have a Plan 4 and a Plan 300, whatever number you want to suggest.
As long as we don't hit the hundreds, I think we'll be fine.
Mr.
Is there-
Mayor,
Any other questions from council members?
I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
If there's no objection from the council, and if there's no further questions, I'd like for us to follow Councilmember Perez's recommendation for us to adopt this as Plan 3.
This would be, the version would be Plan 3. You're saying to adopt
Well, you don't
preference?
I'm
adopt
sorry,
it.
not adopt, just to include it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
include it. Yeah,
Let me
okay.
be
You
clear.
you
To include it
actually
as
don't-
Plan 3.
I
This
don't
is
think
officially number 3.
Yeah, you don't,
Okay.
you don't need to vote on it.
No,
You don't need to vote on it.
it just becomes Plan 3, basically.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead,
just
sir.
so
Go ahead,
I'll
ma'am.
Remind council that we will have one more public hearing on a Saturday, which is going to be January 8th.
January 8th.
And then
Correct.
we are hoping to have the plans presented to council on January 18th for you to introduce the ordinance with the plan that you decide on and have it go for a first reading on the 18th of January, have it go for its second reading on the 7th of February, to be adopted on the 7th of February, so that it will be in effect by March 7th, which will be a month in advance of the April.
Thank you.
Real quick question on the 2/7 second reading. What time is that going to be?
It's going to be a regular meeting. So the 18th and the 7th are regular meetings. January 8th will be our last special Saturday public hearing, but we will have them on as public hearing as public hearings on the 18th and the 7th.
Thank you.
No, the 7th, I think it just goes to adoption. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one
and that will
more.
satisfy our 4 public hearing requests that we have to hold.
Thank you. I have one more question, or if we can go back to the area along Clearview again. I'm looking at this map, and I have a couple more questions just to see if we can clean something up here that I'm seeing. If we can expand that so we can get a better look of
Okay.
the area that we did change. If we go down, we see the number 137 towards going south. Go a little further down.
By Manzanita.
Yeah. Go down a little. There you go. Okay, you see King and McDonald Circle.
Yeah.
Those can only be accessed through Clearview. Can we put those into 4? Now the upper part, I think I know we have access through Bonneview, so we could leave that in District 3. Would that be possible? I
Let
see
me
that's
see.
probably in that block 137.
That's a huge census block that was an upside down horseshoe. The
Yeah.
one with 600 and some people in it. I think that's.
No,
what you-
no, he's talking about 137.
He
So
has 137
137, that currently is in 4.
Okay.
But
Oh,
the-
it is. Okay, that's all in
Yes,
4 then. Perfect.
but this part of the street is not.
Oh, that's what I meant. That side is.
Yeah,
Is
see,
that
this
possible?
is that guy.
That's the census block. So you'd have
That's
to.
a, cen-
That's how you do by
that's-
census block.
so
Okay.
yeah, and it's 573 people.
Okay. So that would.
So if we did that, we would need to cut out some other part of 4.
Now I understand now. So, but the other part, Nez Perce at 87 does fit into it.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay. Okay. I don't want to make it more complicated than it is. Thank
I
you.
have some
If I
ideas.
can,
I think I heard Mr. Perez first.
No, I was just thinking I was thinking that I have just some ideas, and instead of in this into a workshop, I'm actively gonna go onto the site and instead of taking everyone else's time, because I think now I'm starting to think, oh man, this is kind of fun.
It is kind of
It
fun.
is.
It's a
Yeah.
puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we'd love to do it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks for what really is helping me, because I'm a hands-on type of guy. When I see how you move the districts and I see the numbers move, it's like, oh, because when just personally looking at this whole thing, it's like, oh my God, it's like, ah. But when I see you changing things and I see how it moves, it's like, huh? Well, not to you as professionally, but it makes me more interested and excited to come up with a different my own map.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing that.
Mr.
Yeah, and
Resendez?
if you play around with it and you can't quite do it the way you want to, we'll be here at the next public hearing and we can do a workshop sort of thing and you'll be more adept at it. In
And if we
asking
have questions, are we able? Is there a number that we can call to ask you guys about?
I think it's
anything?
best if you email the staff and then they convey it to us.
All right, yeah. All right, thank you. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Resendez, you had a question, comment?
yeah, I agree with Councilmember Perez. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but you did bring up that horseshoe. So what if we were to take Caputo? It says 579. What if we were to put the horseshoe into District
Yes.
4 and then take off the Caputo 579? That'll go on over to the other district nicely, Caputo Court 579, and put that
Oh,
in
yeah.
3. That might balance it out, and then you don't have that half street, right? I think we could be here
Right.
all day doing this.
I would kind of like to take this. Would we want to take El Toro Drive also to
Yeah,
like complete it?
I think
and do this?
if you did that, you'd probably, not to make it more complicated, you'd probably have to move District 3 over to Valley View to compensate for that
That's
loss.
exactly where I was going.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think if you did that, that would probably work. Let's take a look at that.
yeah. All right, so this was Plan 3, I think we'll remember that.
Or Plan 3.
Okay, so now we're, okay, so now 3 is too small is the problem. So we need to give some population to 3. And you're saying from Valley View Drive
Yes.
over. Yeah, that could work easily.
Valley View is a good line also.
If I can ask another question.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so is my memory serve me correct where we can save so many ideas? There's a limit on what we can, there's a certain number that's included in this package, but if we go over that, then we're charged per plan. Am I correct in my thinking?
Yeah, but it was a lot. And,
Okay.
and no one's coming forward.
20 plus plans.
And
right?
this isn't counting.
Where's Dave?
We do it ourselves. It's not counting.
Oh,
Okay, so this seems to work okay here. If we just take this part of it.
Okay.
Can we
Yeah,
pan,
look
sorry,
at
Mr.
the-
Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
can we pan back out so we can see a bigger picture?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So we could even take this maybe if you
Yes,
want.
I would say if you're going to do Valley View, take it to the Union.
Actually, okay. So, one of the nice things here is this thing called pending things, but I can't get to it because of my Zoom screen. All right, I'll just say yes to this.
It's in the redistricting.
I know, I can't get to it, Jean, because of the Zoom link is covering it up. All right, so this, let's go back here. Well, you can see minus 6.51, 3.8. So going back up, we can see if there's some other part of, if there's some other population of 4 that we can take. But 4 is pretty small right now. I mean, it's actually 9. Yeah, no, you're over the 10.
Shelley, how about
Yes.
putting, sorry, could you pan downwards?
Yeah,
How about taking out 124, 97, 10, and 180 and leaving those in 4? What would that deviation be?
I'm sorry, which?
Just to the left of those odd shapes that are islands in the city, 124,
Yeah.
97, 10, and 180 in the 0 block.
Before we do that, can I ask a quick question here?
Yeah.
Right now, as it lays out, we are in compliance with those numbers, correct?
No, you're not, because the minus 6.5 and the plus 3.8 puts you at 10.3.
That throws us off. Okay, I thought it was per
Just a
district.
little bit. We just need a little
Okay.
bit more. So Jean was suggesting this area go back
4.
to 4, but let's just see if there's another area you'd prefer more than that. Could we take this 142 here? This looks like a major street, though I don't
What
see.
street is it? Can we?
Yeah, let me zoom in.
That is El Toro, I believe.
A Memorial.
Memorial.
That's Memorial. That seems like a good street to do.
Mr. Burns, how are you? What do you think about some of these?
I'm struggling a little bit, but I'm more of a hands-on kind of guy. So I'm tracking, but it's hard for me to really get the bigger picture. So
Yeah.
I'll defer my thoughts. I did have one question though, Mayor, in relation to, I know that we've talked at least to some degree about factoring in current development in progress. And so we've looked at Fairview Road, but I also know on Valley View, there is the subdivision that's going in the retirement 55 and up community there, directly off of Valley View as well, near the fire station. And I don't remember the total number of homes, but I know that they've built out at least 40 or 50 currently. I thought that was a subdivision of about 200 homes.
Yeah,
and I don't know
about
if that
180. Yeah, right around there. You're right, about 200.
And I didn't know how that could potentially factor into this conversation.
Okay.
So here is what maybe we'll call Plan 4. It might help if I colored the districts so you could see, but this is District 4, Memorial, and then it goes to, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Memorial, and then it goes down to Valley View. Everything else was the same.
Those are fairly clean lines, I believe, having walked those areas.
Yeah.
Easy to determine and so does it go east from Memorial up Sunny Slope and then south on Valley View? Is that what we've talked about?
Yes.
Okay.
Memorial, Sunny Slope, and then Valley View.
Yeah, that and that will continue all the way to Union?
Yes.
Yeah, I think those are simple and
Yeah.
clearly defined and easily understood.
That does look pretty good.
And I guess these are the holes in your district,
Yes,
City.
county.
city.
Those are county pockets.
Are you going to annex any of those?
That's down the line.
Yeah.
A lot of those are already built out, actually.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
if I can, then I would suggest, I guess the word's not adopt, but we adopt for consideration plans 3 and 4 that we created together.
Today we're
as-
just, I believe they said we're just creating plans, and then we don't adopt anything until we do have to have 4 meetings, correct?
Yeah.
We
Yes.
would adopt.
We would just include them.
We will make this plan 4 and we will put it up on the Moore site so
Perfect.
that you can play with it too.
You could take 1 and 2 off the table at this point and focus on 3 and 4. So right now you have 4 plans, and you could decide now informally to focus on 3 and 4 if you want to. Not a voting thing, but
Yeah.
Mayor Velasquez.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I would actually prefer to leave 1 and 2 up there as well. But a different question, different comment, maybe for the city clerk, Christine. Have we reached, I know at our last meeting, we did discuss maybe having a computer at the local library as well as maybe at the community center. And so did we move forward and do that? And was that part of the public noticing that we made people aware that those were locations to go? Because I really would like to hear the community's thoughts and try and really gain their engagement in this process as much as we possibly can. I mean, my greatest concern is when we get to adopting whatever the new districts are going to look like, that people are going to go, because we've in the general plan work that's currently going on. Nobody told us. We didn't get a chance. We want to participate, and I really would like to ensure that when we get to this point, that everybody has had an opportunity to know. I don't even know. Maybe we put something out in the local utility bills that go out, or some other way to just go above and beyond what we would routinely and normally do to just try and ensure that people have had knowledge or notice at least.
Other than honestly advertising in the newspaper, we could do that again. We tried to do that over the Thanksgiving holiday too, so that it would be if people were at home. I don't have authority. I could probably create something, but I would have to ask the city manager for his support to have that put in, say, water bill mailers. I could ask him about that. I can contact the library and see if they have computers available, and see if maybe we could put redistricting, like Janae suggested, where maybe we have one designated for redistricting. And I'm not sure about the community center and if they have the computers going over there. I think Jovena's had some, but I don't know if they're even staffed or available.
Mayor, this is Brett. Yeah, we can put them in the utility bills, and I don't mind using our social media outlets to get that out, and at our community center work with us to try to use one of those computers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, how are we doing on that? Is that plan for our design? Can we see the boundaries yet?
you're muted, Shelley.
Would you like to see that again?
I think so we can see the final, the color drawings of it. I think it's helpful.
Okay, let me put the color in here.
There you go. Looks like you have it. So we are meeting the requirements with this version of it, correct?
Yes.
We're under 10%. Okay.
Yes.
And I think it does make a lot of sense. District 3 is not going to have a lot of growth in the next 10 years. District 4 is going to have quite a bit in the next 5 years. So a lot of this does make a lot of sense.
Those aren't very pretty colors. Let me see about.
Oh, you
It's
don't,
just, don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. They're, well, as far as I'm concerned, maybe. Council.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. One thing I've been noticing since we've been doing this is that the Latino population has been increasing in districts 3 and 4 as well. They're not quite as high, obviously, but they have gone up every time we've changed it. So I'm really content with that. Thank you.
So, I mean, this is a little clearer or not about seeing an overview
Yeah. It
of
helps.
it. Yeah. So I think this is, this is a great line, west side, and then south and what this is now. But these are good lines here. And West Street, I think you liked.
Yeah, that was
That's Memorial.
So, and then Memorial to Valley View. So,
and those are
good.
large streets you were talking about to help define the lines a little better. I think that does look kind of nice.
Well, we can make maps like we just showed you for plans 1 and 2, and put them on the website also.
Oh, I think as Mr. Burns said, you make sure we keep them all on there so people are
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
through it. So, all right. Any other questions or comments from council members?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
I think the consultants also requested possibly advertising it in the paper again. I would suggest that we do that and just do as much means as we can to engage the public and get them involved.
Will do.
I agree. I think we need to do our, Mr. Burns is correct. We need to get people participating now.
Even if they don't, doing it would satisfy the Fair Maps Act
Yeah.
requirement for publicizing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's, getting
Good.
the information out there early is important, so they are participating. They're part of the changes in our community.
Yeah, they just have the opportunity to participate. And I don't think you'll have a huge turnout for using more, but it's really important that you have that option because it's required.
So if I may, if we request it this Friday, the soonest we can get it advertised, and then with your permission, I can have it run the 24th, the 31st, and the 7th, which would be right before our next public hearing on a Saturday, which is the 8th. Of course, we're going to have a public hearing again on the 18th and probably not the 7th, but the 18th, and that would satisfy our public hearings. But if council will agree to that, we'll go ahead and have it run the 24th, the 31st, and January 7th.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And we'll do the other outlets also, the mailers and the utility bills and social media also.
I will get a sheet together. I think Nova has something already pretty nice that she can provide to the city manager or to finance to put in the utility bills.
Perfect. Any other questions then or comments from the council members or the team?
So I have one.
Go ahead, sir.
So the link for Map Tuner, is that correct? Is
More.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's the same link that we get, that the public gets? Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you, guys.
I
Mr.
thought this
Mayor.
was a really productive meeting, and I thought it really worked well to work with you to develop plans.
Yeah, I
Yes,
thought that worked
this
out
is-
really well too.
Really great.
Yeah,
Well,
thank
that
you
was
for
one of
the
my Christmas list was that was on my Christmas. Thank you for filling
An
that.
early present.
I'd like to comment too that both plans 1 and 2 are shared on the Moore site. And you would just click on the shared plan tab instead of the initial tab where the current
Okay.
plan is stored. Yeah, click right plan and it lists plans 1 and 2. And like Shelley said we'll put the additional plans on there as well soon.
Thank
So
you.
you can start with any of the 4 plans and tinker with it for your plan.
Thank you. All right, everyone. If there's no other questions or comments, we will, we hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Press,
Yes.
Councilmember Burns,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Resendez,
Yes.
Mayor Velasquez.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
All right, everyone. Please stay safe out there. This COVID is going around pretty aggressively right now. So do all you can to keep yourself and your family and friends safe. So take care, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
See you soon. Merry Christmas. Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.
Have a good day.
Rec-